Welcome to the Daily Bellringer. Today we are taking a look at the Battle of Guilford Courthouse. The Battle of Guilford Courthouse is, I guess you could say, not a gigantic battle, but a battle that really, sets up what's going to be the end of the war, really the last big conflict of the war. All right, so if we look here at what happens at the Battle of Guilford Courthouse, if you remember in one of our past bell ringers, we looked at the fall of Charleston. All right, and in the fall of Charleston, remember we had General Henry Clinton, who had led forces to basically first Savannah, Georgia, and then they marched north into Charleston, surrounded the city, captured over 5,000 American troops. It was a terrible, terrible loss. But after the battle, Henry Clinton heads back to New York to begin to take on George Washington and the Continental Army up in New York and in the Northeast. In the meantime, you can see this guy on the right here, General Charles Cornwallis, is ordered to begin to march north across the Carolinas and what becomes known as the Carolina Campaign. All right, and so once he starts marching north from Charleston, he has big success, I guess initially at the Battle of Camden, where he defeats a guy named Horatio Gates. If you remember, Horatio Gates was the big hero of Saratoga, but he just basically completely obliterates Horatio Gates' army in that battle, and so Gates is taken out of command, and the Americans have a new commander that George Washington dispatches to take command in the South, and that's this guy you see on the left, Nathaniel Greene. All right, takes over. All right, but in the meantime, as Cornwallis, wins at Camden, he continues to march north across South Carolina and North Carolina. The problem is, though, he's facing a lot of resistance from militia and a lot of guerrilla tactics that are just basically picking at Cornwallis's army and just really slowing him down as he's marching to the north. All right, and Nathaniel Greene kind of begins to lead Cornwallis on this chase across the Carolinas, where he's kind of engaging Cornwallis, but not really coming right out and fighting him, and he's just kind of wearing him down throughout 1780 and into 1781. All right, and so eventually Nathaniel Greene kind of takes him on this chase, but then brings him out to fight on March 15th of 1781. All right, so this is what's going to be the largest battle of this campaign in the South for Cornwallis. So if we take a look here at where the Battle of Guilford Courthouse took place, you can see on the map here, of course, up here in New York, that's where Henry Clinton would have been fighting with George Washington, and then down here is Charleston, and remember Cornwallis would have been marching north across the Carolinas, and this is where he begins to face a lot of resistance, and can't really move much further. But if we zoom in here, we'll see kind of up here in northern North Carolina, just north of Greensboro, North Carolina, or really in the Greensboro area, is this area of the Battle of Guilford Courthouse. All right, so in the course of this battle, as I said, fought on March 15th, 1781, it's basically 4,500 Americans against only 1,900 British. So, this is one of those rare battles where the Americans actually have the advantage in numbers, all right? But the battle lasts for about 2.5 hours, but this is a very intense fight, all right? A lot of hand-to-hand combat. In fact, there's one moment during the battle where the Americans and the British are so entangled in this fight that actually Cornwallis orders his artillery to open fire on the center of the line. All right, and he actually orders for them to fire grape shot. And if you don't know what grape shot is, I'll show an image of it here. It's basically like a big shotgun canister for artillery, for a cannon. It's like a canister or a can filled with a bunch of, musket balls or a bunch of different pieces of metal. And so when it fires, it just kind of spreads everywhere. Cornwallis actually says open fire on the center of the line to break up the fight. Basically he takes out some of his own men as well as taking out Americans. So it's a very, very brutal fight. All right, in the end, the Americans actually withdraw from the field, but Nathaniel Greene is able to withdraw his men in an orderly fashion. It isn't like they're just running for the hills, all right? It's an orderly retreat, so his army stays intact. In the meantime, Cornwallis loses about 25% of his force here at this battle, all right? And so in the outcome of the battle, there's about 1,300 casualties for the Americans, so that's killed, wounded, or missing. For the British, there's about 532, but you got to remember the British had a much smaller force coming into this battle, all right? And so basically the outcome of this battle is now Cornwallis, who's been marching north to basically rendezvous with Henry Clinton and trap George Washington. Now Cornwallis is going to have to kind of abandon this Carolina campaign, and actually he's going to start heading towards the ocean to a little place called Yorktown, all right, in Virginia, where he hopes to get reinforcements because he knows the British have naval superiority. So if he can get to Yorktown, he can possibly get some reinforcements. All right, so again, this is kind of the battle that is the culmination of this Carolina campaign for the British. All right, so hopefully you learned something there, and I will talk to you later. Thanks.